Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something about human nature, especially when it comes to relationships. You ever notice how people only start to realize your worth the moment you stop chasing them? See, when you give somebody too much of your time, too much of your energy, they start thinking that attention is guaranteed. But the minute you pull back, suddenly they're wondering what happened. Suddenly, you're a mystery again, and people can't resist a mystery. Ladies and gentlemen, in life and love, there comes a time when you have to make a decision that defines how much you truly value yourself. That decision is about whether you keep chasing someone who barely sees your worth, or whether you choose to step back and let them realize what they've lost. Valuing yourself enough to stop chasing someone who takes you for granted isn't about pride or ego. It's about understanding the simple truth that love is a two-way street, not a one-man marathon. Too often, we get caught up in the cycle of proving our worth to people who don't even deserve the proof. We send the first text, make the first call, keep the conversation alive, and carry the entire relationship on our shoulders. We tell ourselves, maybe they're just busy, or they'll come around eventually. But here's the thing, when someone truly values you, you won't have to remind them to show up. You won't have to beg for attention, affection, or respect. When you find yourself doing that, it's a sign that you're giving more than you're getting. And that's not love. That's desperation disguised as devotion. Now, let's talk about what it means to truly value yourself. Self-value isn't just about how you look, what you own, or how confident you appear to the world. It's about knowing deep down that you deserve effort, respect, and genuine care. It's about setting a standard and refusing to lower it just to keep someone close. When you chase someone who doesn't reciprocate, you send a silent message that their time is more valuable than yours. You start to shrink yourself to fit into their world, waiting for crumbs of attention when you deserve the whole table. And the more you chase, the less they respect you. Because people respect what they have to earn. Let me tell you something real. When you stop chasing, something shifts inside you. You start to reclaim your energy, your peace, and your dignity. You realize that you've been giving someone the privilege of your presence while they've been treating it like a burden. You start to understand that sometimes love isn't about holding on, it's about letting go with grace. Because you can't force someone to appreciate you no matter how much you do for them. You can't make someone love you the way you love them. The only thing you can control is how much of yourself you give away before you realize it's too much. When someone takes you for granted, it's usually because you've made things too easy for them. You've shown them that you'll always be there, no matter what they do or how they treat you. But when you pull back, when you stop responding to every call, every half-hearted message, that's when they start to notice. That's when they start to wonder what happened. It's not because they suddenly love you more. It's because your absence forced them to confront the comfort they lost. You see, familiarity breeds complacency. And sometimes distance is the only thing that wakes people up. But don't make the mistake of stepping back just to get a reaction. Do because you finally respect yourself enough to walk away from anything that doesn't nourish your soul. When you value yourself, you stop begging for love. This is auditioning for roles that were never meant for you. You stop explaining your worth to people who already see it, but choose to ignore it. You learn that being alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means you're no longer settling for half-hearted connections. The moment you stop chasing is the moment you start growing. You begin to invest your energy into yourself, your goals, your peace, your passions. You start to not yet met because you're no longer drained by trying to convince someone to stay. That glow, that confidence, that quiet strength, that's what real attraction looks like. Because when you love yourself right, you attract people who are capable of loving you right. 2, some people will only realize your worth after you stop showing up. And when that happens, don't let their sudden interest confuse you. Don't let them back in just because they miss your attention. Missing your energy doesn't mean they value your heart. Sometimes people chase you again just to feel in control, to prove to themselves that they can still have you. But when you truly value yourself, you'll see through that. You'll know the difference between someone who wants you and someone who just doesn't want to lose you. Valuing yourself is also about boundaries. It's about saying no more and meaning it. It's about not responding when they call after ignoring you for weeks. It's about not letting someone's inconsistency disrupt your peace. It's about understanding that your worth isn't dependent on who chooses you. It's defined by how you choose yourself. The more you respect your own boundaries, the more others will respect them too. People treat you the way you allow them to, so when you stop tolerating disrespect, you teach others how to treat you. Now, I'm not saying this is easy. Walking away from someone you love is one of the hardest things you'll ever do. It hurts. It feels like a piece of you is missing, but that pain is temporary. It's the pain of healing, not the pain of loss. Because what you're really losing isn't love. It's the illusion of love. You're shading the weight of someone who couldn't carry you the way you deserved. And in that process, you're making space for someone who will. The truth is, when you value yourself enough to stop chasing someone who takes you for granted, you don't just gain peace. You gain power. You stop being controlled by their attention or their absence. You stop living in reaction to someone else's behavior. You become the one in control, not by manipulating, but by mastering your emotions. That's what self-worth looks like in action. It's calm. It's strong. It's silent. So the next time you feel like reaching out to someone who's already shown you they don't care, take a breath. Remind yourself who you are and what you bring to the table. You are not a backup plan. You are not a placeholder. You are a person with value, someone who deserves love that's consistent, not convenient. When you truly understand that, you'll stop chasing people and start attracting the right ones. Remember, the right person won't make you chase. The right person will meet you halfway. It'll match your energy and your heart. Until then, keep your head high, your standards higher, and your heart protected, because the most powerful thing you can ever do is realize you don't need to chase love. You just need to embody it. There comes a point in every relationship, every connection, when words lose their power. You can explain yourself over and over again, try to make someone understand how you feel, plead, argue, cry, and still nothing changes. That's when silence becomes your greatest strength. Because silence, when used with self-respect, isn't weakness. It's not avoidance. It's not coldness. It's control, calm, deliberate, dignified control. And when you combine silence with distance, it sends a message so powerful that no amount of talking could ever match it. When someone takes you for granted, they stop listening to what you say. Your words lose weight because they've heard them before, and they think you'll never follow through. They think you'll always come back, no matter what. So they tune you out. But the moment you stop talking, when you stop showing up, when your voice disappears from their world, suddenly they start hearing it again. They start wondering what happened. They start missing the sound of your presence. Because silence has a way of echoing louder than any argument ever could. Silence says, I'm done explaining. I've said enough. It says, now it's your turn to think. You see, when you stay quiet, you give the other person space to reflect. And sometimes that reflection hits harder than anything you could have said. People start to feel the absence of your energy. They start to realize how much of the connection depended on your effort, your words, your care. Silence exposes that imbalance. It shows who was doing the work all along. Distance adds to that power, because silence without distance can still be broken. Distance without silence can still be misunderstood. But when you pair them together, they become undeniable. When you stop reaching out, stop explaining, stop making excuses, and you physically or emotionally pull back, you create a void, and that void speaks volumes. People don't value what's constantly available. It's human nature. But take that availability away, and suddenly it becomes rare. It becomes precious. There's a kind of strength in walking away quietly without slamming doors or shouting back. That quiet exit says, you didn't deserve my noise. It says, I'm not here to convince you of my worth. I'm here to protect my peace. And when you do that, you shift the dynamic completely. The person who once ignored you starts to wonder where you went. They start replaying conversations in their mind, looking for clues. They feel your silence as rejection, even if you never intended it that way. Because deep down, everyone wants to feel heard. And when you take that away, they feel the emptiness they once caused you to feel. Silence also gives you space to heal when you stop engaging in endless back and forths. When you stop trying to prove your side, you give yourself room to breathe. You stop feeding the chaos. You stop absorbing negativity. You redirect that energy towards yourself, your peace, your goals, your growth. And in that quiet, you start to see things clearly. You start realizing how much of your energy was spent trying to be understood by someone who was never listening. Silence gives you clarity, and distance gives you perspective. Most people think silence means defeat, that walking away means you've lost. But the truth is, sometimes silence is the loudest form of self-respect. It says, I don't owe you my words anymore. It says, my peace is more important than this argument. It's not about proving who's right. It's about deciding what's worth your time. The moment you stop responding to disrespect, you stop giving it power. And the more silent you become, the more uncomfortable it makes those who once took advantage of your presence. Because silence forces accountability. When you stop talking, they have no one left to argue with but themselves. You see, silence doesn't just speak. It teaches. It teaches others how to treat you. It teaches you patience, self-control, and emotional maturity. It shows the world that you're not desperate for attention, that you don't need validation to feel whole. And when you pair that silence with distance, you're showing that your peace is worth protecting, even if it means losing someone who doesn't know how to appreciate it. Now, let's be honest. Silence and distance aren't easy. It's hard to hold your tongue when you want to speak your truth. It's painful to walk away when every part of you wants to stay. You'll feel that tug in your heart, the urge to check in, to see if they've noticed your absence, to explain just one more time how you feel. But that's where your strength is tested. Because silence isn't about pretending you don't care. It's about proving that you care about yourself more. It's about breaking the habit of over-giving. It's about trusting that what's meant for you will come back with effort. Not because you chased it, but because it realized what it lost. There's also beauty in silence, a quiet kind of beauty that's often overlooked. It's the beauty of peace after chaos, the stillness that follows the storm. It's the moment when you finally stop trying to control what's out of your hands. Silence allows your heart to reset, your mind to refocus, and your spirit to rise. And that kind of transformation doesn't happen when you're caught in constant noise. It happens when you let go, step back and listen. Not to others, but to yourself. And here's the truth: when you become comfortable with silence, you become unstoppable. Because most people can't handle their own quiet. They need distraction, drama, and attention to feel alive. But when you find peace in your own company, when you can sit in silence and feel whole, you stop needing closure from others. You become your own closure. You become your own peace. That's when your silence stops being a reaction and starts becoming your strength. People will notice your silence long before they notice your words. They'll feel your distance more than they ever felt your presence. And when that happens, some will come running back, realizing too late what they lost. Others will fade away completely. And that's okay, because silence is a way of revealing who truly cares and who was just comfortable with your effort. It separates the real from the temporary. Silence and distance also create mystery. In a world where everyone overshares, being quiet and unavailable becomes powerful. It makes people curious. It makes them wonder what you're thinking, what you're doing, who you're becoming. That mystery, that quiet confidence, draws attention naturally. Not because you're chasing it, but because you're no longer trying. The energy of someone who doesn't need to speak to be understood is magnetic. So when you feel the urge to explain yourself to someone who's already shown they don't care, choose silence. When you want to prove your worth, choose distance. Let your absence speak for you. Because words can be twisted, misunderstood, ignored, but silence cannot be denied. It lingers. It makes people think. It demands respect without ever asking for it. And maybe, just maybe, the person you were once chasing will finally see the value of what they lost when the noise stops. But by then, you'll have grown so much in your silence that you might not even care anymore. And that's the true power of it. When you master silence and distance, you stop reacting to others and start leading your own peace. You stop needing validation and start becoming the calm in your own storm. That's when you truly understand how silence and distance can speak louder than words ever will. There's a big difference between ignoring someone to get even and ignoring someone to protect your peace. One comes from bitterness, the other from strength. When you ignore someone who's hurt you, disrespected you, or taken you for granted, it's not always about trying to make them feel what you felt. Sometimes it's about reclaiming your energy, setting boundaries, and saying without words, you no longer have the power to disturb my peace. Because real strength isn't in fighting every battle. It's in knowing which ones deserve your silence. Ignoring isn't revenge. It's a declaration that you refuse to give your emotions to someone who hasn't earned them. We live in a world where everyone thinks the loudest person wins, where shouting back or clapping back seems like the only way to prove you're not weak. But ignoring takes a different kind of courage. It means you're strong enough to stay calm when chaos is trying to pull you in. It means you've reached a point in your life where your mental and emotional health matter more than proving a point. People mistake silence for weakness, but it takes far more strength to stay still than to react. Because ignoring someone who's trying to provoke you is an act of self-discipline, and self-discipline is the highest form of self-respect. When you ignore, you're not pretending that you don't care. You're choosing not to waste your energy showing it. You're making a conscious decision to step back from someone who doesn't deserve a front row seat to your emotions. There's power in restraint. You could argue. You could send that long text. You could let your anger out. But you don't. You hold it in, you let it dissolve in your silence, and you walk away. That's not weakness. That's mastery. You're mastering yourself, your reactions, your peace. Because at the end of the day, revenge keeps you tied to the person who hurt you, but ignoring them frees you completely. When you make the choice to ignore, you start teaching people how to treat you. You're showing them that not everyone deserves your attention. And once you learn to do that, you'll notice how much lighter life becomes. The things that used to bother you don't anymore. The people who used to trigger you lose their power. Because worrying doesn't mean you don't notice. It means you've outgrown the need to respond. You see the behavior, you understand it, but you refuse to entertain it. That's the highest form of growth, being unbothered by what once broke you. Ignoring also brings clarity. When you stop engaging with someone who feeds on your attention, you start seeing their true intentions. Some people only stay in your life because you keep feeding their ego. They love the attention, even if it's negative. But the moment you go quiet, they panic. They start trying to pull you back in to trigger you again. They might start posting things to get your reaction, saying things to make you respond. But the moment you don't bite, you win. Because the one who stays silent controls the conversation. When you stop responding, you take away their favorite weapon, your reaction. Many people confuse ignoring with playing games, but they're not the same thing. Games are manipulative, ignoring is protective. When you ignore someone out of self-respect, you're not trying to punish them. You're trying to heal yourself. You're choosing peace over chaos, that's silence over drama, dignity over attention. It's not about making them chase you. It's about not chasing what keeps hurting you. And in doing that, you shift the balance. You show the world that your self-worth isn't determined by who gives you attention or who withholds it. It's determined by how you treat yourself when others don't treat you right. There's something powerful about being unreachable. When someone who once had access to your heart suddenly finds themselves locked out, it shocks them. They start realizing what your presence really meant. And in that silence, they begin to understand that you're not ignoring them to be cruel. You're ignoring them because you've realized they no longer align with your peace. You can care about someone and still choose not to engage. You can forgive someone and still decide not to give them space in your life. Ignoring isn't about hate. It's about emotional maturity. It's saying, I wish you well, but I'm done giving you the power to disrupt my peace. Ignoring also helps you focus your energy inward. Instead of wasting time wondering what they're doing, what they're thinking, or why they did, what they did, you start investing in yourself. You start rediscovering your worth, your joy, your goals. You start realizing that you don't need closure from them because the closure was always within you. The day you stop needing a response is the day you set yourself free. You stop waiting, stop hoping, stop checking your phone. You start living. And that's the sweetest kind of revenge there is. Moving on without bitterness, without noise, without needing them to understand. Sometimes the best apology you'll never hear is silence. Because silence says everything that needs to be